All right, welcome back. I'm John Nelson with M&A. I'm joined by Keith Prather of Armada, and we're going to take a look at fabricated metal. This sector is I want to say boring in that it's the same kind of story that we've had month over month. Real nice positive growth, maybe a little bit jaggeder, as I said before to Keith during the break. It's not quite as smooth of a trend line up as previous models were showing it, but still the same general trend line moving forward. If you take a look at it, just a trend line for the last couple of years, from the worst point of the recession in May all the way till now, it's almost, you could draw a nice straight line right through it. Very positive growth on this one.
Yeah, and I don't think the model is cheating here. I mean, one could say, well, you're just drawing a straight line through it, and it's just picking up that trend. But I mean, there's a lot of different metrics that go into this model.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's working hard to create this curve. I do know that. But there's a couple of things here. It's interesting because this tells us a different story from some of the other models. If you've followed and if you tuned into some of the other industries that we've looked at, you'll see that a lot of them are depressed, and a lot of them are depressed because of inventory issues. A lot of that stemming from importation and some of the challenges with the global supply chain. But this sector itself is driven more by smaller job shops that are able to crank out domestic products, and they're not really as reliant upon a global supply chain trying to feed them with the component parts or raw materials that they need to crank out the products that they're cranking out. Not that they're not finding shortages of supplies and some of the same challenges, but they're able to probably tolerate it better than other industries. And what this shows, though, is that fabricated metals feed all the other industries in durable manufacturing. And so this helps us explain the demand curve being strong in all the other industries, because this one that doesn't have a broken supply chain is cranking out product about as fast as it can. And the curve is showing that continuously strong demand, well throughout 22 and then into 23. So I love this one because it does help us tell some of the other stories and some of the other industries, and gives us a little more optimism about what we think we're going to see kind of moving forward.
Sure. So year over year, what does it look like? Well, this one takes a look. We've joked about it before, a little bit like the Loch Ness Monster, where you get a little bit of this neck sticking out, but it's not uncharacteristic. You see those kind of necks sticking out before in the past, and wild swings in this one in terms of overall, when you think about the wild periods of time, long periods of growth that we've seen in the past, like here. Well, not like there, like here and here and here, all those kind of the same, those long periods of growth.
Yeah, and some of those curves, those prior curves, if you're looking at 20-point jumps, and that's about what we've got here. But we were completely shut down. So this industry had almost a full year to try and recover from. And so you've got a lot of that pent up demand kind of pushing forward. So the fact that this one is showing, roughly what, 20 points, I guess, is completely believable. Yeah.
Yeah. If you go like from here to here is kind of where it was, where we had to come from that crash.
Yeah. I think what's interesting, though, is this being an index, right? So it's building on top of years, are building on top of years, and it's indexed back to a very specific point in time. So anytime we go over 100, we're outperforming that original base year. And so if we draw a line at 110, we're kind of forecasting that going into 2023, that you could see the second strongest period in the last 20 years. So we had that run up into 2008 that showed us hitting an index level of about 120. Now we're talking about maybe getting up to as high as 110, at least in this wave. So we're talking about not a historic level, but for the last decade, it's definitely going to exceed any time that we've seen prior to this. And so a lot of this is the domestic movement of sourcing and kind of bringing sourcing back to the U.S. So just lots of good outlook here for this particular industry.
Okay. Year over year, it's right here in the mix. What I would say, this year looks, or this forecast year right here, looks very similar to 2016.
Yeah, and again, we're starting to climb out. I mean, it looks like the really great year was 2018, and we can corroborate that across a number of different industries, like especially in the trucking and transportation industry. We circled 2018, and folks that have been in that industry for 40 years and said they never had a better environment. And what the models are kind of telling us right now is that we kind of returned to those heyday years of 2018 when production was moving about as fast as companies could crank out products. And so we're at least the forward-looking curve kind of shows a resumption of that kind of a trend.
Okay. All right. Well, that concludes our look at fabricated metals, and hope you join us next month.
Sounds good.